Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Say Goodbye to Crazy. I am, as usual, one of your warm and fuzzy, loving, emotionally available hosts, Paul Elam, and I am joined by the ever wonderful Dr. Tara Pomatier. Say hi, Dr. T.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry we're a couple minutes late. Been one of those days, but better late than never, as they say. Today we're going to talk about mommy bloggers. And I tell you what, why don't we start with the basics? Because I'm sure there's probably been somebody out there that's lived in a grass hut somewhere that's never heard of what a mommy blogger is or what they do. So I will prevail upon the ever-informed Dr. T to give us an explanation of just what makes a mommy blogger a mommy blogger.
Well, I don't spend too much time in the momosphere, which is where mommy bloggers dwell. But mommy bloggers are women, moms, who have websites or blogs where they talk about being a mom, parenting issues, etc. Not all of them are horrible people. Some of them are legitimately blogging about helpful parenting tips or parenting with special needs children, advice for being a stay-at-home mom, how to save money, clipping coupons, all that stuff. I don't want people to think that we're trashing all mommy bloggers. Some of them are very lovely people who publish very helpful information or heartwarming information. We're talking about the women who are often stay-at-home moms, either still married or divorced, who go online and trash their husbands or ex-husbands who are making it financially possible for them, in many cases, to be at home online while they are ostensibly being a stay-at-home mom who's spending the better part of the day on the computer tweeting or Facebooking or on Cafe Mom. Not all of these women have blogs. Some of them hang out on mom websites, as I just mentioned. There's Cafe Mom. In Australia, I think the big one is MummyNet. And there's one in the UK whose name I am blanking on that is especially virulent, that I visited once or twice. And it basically often degenerates into father bashing, husband bashing, ex-husband bashing, stepmom bashing, particularly by the biological mothers who are obviously divorced from the fathers of their children. And they will often engage in pretty hostile and nasty claymores with stepmoms. I found out about it because I was invited to a private group of second wives and stepmothers, about 5 years ago now, which is where Crazy Busters sort of grew out of that, my experience with these women. And if you want to read some seriously crazy, cray, oh my God, these were all of the people who go on Jerry Springer Hangout online, go on Cafe Mom and trawl some of the stepmom forums versus biomom forums and topic threads about how can I get more child support out of my deadbeat ex and deny him custody time. Yes, there are really threads, and women unabashedly and unashamedly talk about how to screw their kid's father out of time with the kids and rip him off at the same time. And there are women more than willing, eager and willing to tell them how to do it. It's pretty contemptible and it's pretty disgusting. And it's all done, again, no shame, like there's nothing wrong at all with this. And they also openly talk about how to fake pregnancy tests where they can buy them to trap fathers. It's it tarnishes the golden uterus is what it does, Paul. It tarnishes it.
Yeah, when you give the golden uterus a bad name, you know that there's real problems there. And I'm going to reiterate too, I mean, because I know that some people will want to claim this, that, oh, they're bashing mothers. No, we're not. We are not.
We're not bashing stay-at-home mothers either.
No, not bashing any kind of mother. What we're bashing a little bit, if anything, is the segment of the population in the momosphere that believe that momminess is next to godliness. They are golden uteri out of control, and now they're forming legions of educational centers for how to maliciously screw people over, ruin their lives, and to have a few laughs while you're doing it. And, you know, this is a society of free speech, especially with the internet. We depend on that free speech. I would not abridge their right to do this. I would not prevent them from doing it. I would urge, and look, folks, if you want to thank us, you can buy our book for it. Dr. T and I have gone there. We have seen the carnage. We have seen the disgusting stuff. We researched it so that you didn't have to. And if you want to thank us for that, you can buy our book and support our work. But this isn't about bashing mothers, but this is about, to me, gynocentric culture and what results in that. And when you have a culture with a growing population of personality disorders, and I think it's been fairly well documented that NPD, BPD, things like that are definitely on the uptick. That this is the phenomena you're going to see. Now, it would have been unthinkable 10 years ago, 20 years ago, for a large volume audience of women to be sitting around talking about how to fake pregnancy and bilk guys out of money. But now it's revered. And that is something worth talking about a little bit in my book.
Perhaps not, I don't know if I would say revered, but done without shame, as if it's a perfectly fine thing to do and emulate, and a way to go about, you know, if you don't want to work, just have a kid and squeeze child support out of some guy while you're not allowing him to see the child and teaching the child how to hate him.
Oh, and I got to tell you, this involves, speaking of children, it does involve childcare to a level. I'd encourage you to go to shrinkformen.com and see the image, which is absolutely priceless, that Dr. T selected for the announcement of this program. It shows a woman, looks like she may be in front of her computer. She's definitely on the phone. She has her coffee, and her kid is sitting there, obviously not happy that mommy's not present. And that's my wonder about this, Dr. T, is that, and again, people are free to do what they want to do, but you would think that if you are privileged enough to be among the most privileged class in human history, which is basically stay-at-home moms are, if they're from lower middle class up, stay-at-home moms have lives of sheer luxury. And if you look at the scale of human existence ever since we came out of the savannas in Africa, you would see that they live better than any human beings have ever lived. And what is it about them that takes that opportunity, which, God, if I could have stayed home and watched SpongeBob for a living, I would have done it. But to take that and turn it into a reason to malign and bash the very providers of that type of support is like, man, that's scummy. I'm sorry, it's scummy.
There's a guy I worked with who the deciding factor in divorcing his now ex-wife was because he discovered her online world, where she wrote post after post after post, just trashing him, and not even going very, very far to hide his actual identity. And here he was working hard. She was a stay-at-home mom, going to couples counseling with her, bending over backwards, trying to improve himself. And she was ridiculing him, ridiculing his work, the amount of money he brought home, you name it. And it wasn't just on mommy websites. I think she was also on like some arts and crafts websites or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And when he called her on it, it was, how dare you stalk me online? But again, there was no remorse or shame about speaking about her husband like this, who she did claim to love.
Let me ask you something. I mean, this is not a new phenomenon in many ways. I remember way before the internet, seeing groups of women sit around bashing their husbands. I think that it's just translated into significantly larger groups now, and that's perhaps helping that phenomenon spread and become more popularized and more acceptable. But this has been, and I wonder if there's a resentment, if there is a hostile dependence going on there, that some women may resent the fact that they're not in charge of their own lives, that they maybe feel dependent on somebody who they don't like very much, not excusing what they do at all. But I wonder how much it plays into it that they are taking their lack of ambition in life, their lack of achievement. And again, not bashing mothers. I'm not going to call motherhood an achievement, though. I'm not going to feed into that nonsense. It's a biological function, and it's something, if you're a really great mom, that's great. But to have a child is not a great achievement in life. Millions and billions of women have been doing it through history, and they'll continue to do it. What's that?
And many other organisms.
And many other organisms.
You know, hostile dependence is an interesting phenomenon. It's developmentally, surprise, surprise, it's supposed to be experienced during adolescence. This is when teenage kids.
It often is.
or arrested adolescents, which I believe many of these women are locked into, an arrested adolescence or toddlerhood. But hostile dependence, it's a lot of kids will go through it. It's perfectly natural. It's that time when they're teenagers when, oh God, mom, dad, don't walk with me at the mall. Like, walk 20 paces behind me. You're so not cool. But I don't need you. Can I borrow the keys to the car?
And some gas money.
I'm almost an adult. Yeah. Can I have 20 bucks? Or it was 20 bucks when I was a kid. It's probably more now. But that's perfectly natural because they, you know, the kids want to be independent. The teens want to be autonomous grown-ups, but they're not, and they're still dependent on mom and dad for shelter, food, your basic safety needs and love and protection and all that. What I think we're seeing with these women is also, it can be in many cases a form of hostile dependence where they pretend as if they're these strong, independent women. And I would say oftentimes a lot of the guys I work with, their wives who are stay-at-home moms are in charge. They don't earn the money, but they control it. His paycheck goes right to her. She gives him an allowance to spend on lunches for the week for his train pass. And they have total financial control, even though A, they're not earning the money, and B, many of them are not very good at managing the money because these are just same guys who after they divorce say, you know, we were living paycheck to paycheck. I couldn't save anything. And even now when I'm having to pay spousal support and child support, I'm actually able to put money into my retirement, into my kids' college funds.
I've seen that story a great many times. Guy after guy coming out of marriages with nothing, where they had literally accumulated nothing, no real property, no savings, no anything. And of course, she was scrambling for everything that she could get while he's on the way out the door. But that's true. And that's particularly typical in culture too. I mean, we know that, for instance, men make about 70% to 80% of the money that's earned in society, and women control about the same percentage in spending, in liquidable income on average. So men tend to make money, women tend to take control of it and spend it. And I think a lot of this goes back to men's boundaries and what have you, but we'll talk about that another time, because this one's for the stepmoms out there in particular who are dealing with this sort of craziness.
But the hostile dependence, I do want to answer your question. Yes, on some level, I don't know that it's conscious. These women who are pretending they're in charge and independent and they don't need a man or their husband while they're living off the work of their husband or ex-husband, that is a form of hostile dependency, because you know what? You're not independent if you're not supporting yourself. You're just not.
And a little rule of life that I'll throw in there too, that I can't cite and prove, but I will tell you it's true by everything that's holy, is that if you depend on somebody you hate, you will never be happy. It ain't gonna happen. You will never find a sense of peace in yourself or anything depending on somebody you hate. I got an email recently from a woman in India. Actually, I got like 17 emails from her in a row. First, she demanded to know why she had been criticized by one of the moderators on my site. And then she sent me repeated emails about how much she hated her husband, how much she hated her husband's family, and was just impervious to the irony of this. She was complaining, literally complaining. I am writing an article about this, by the way. She was complaining about having to stay home and listen to music and create art while he worked. And I asked her if she wanted a job in the sewers, that maybe, you know, she should get out and do something else. And of course, she was not interested in that.
She wants
but
to be a CEO.
Yeah.
With her vast experience in finger painting and jamming out to
Ravi Shankar. Yes, her expertise in listening to Ravi Shankar is unparalleled. I am impressed by the woman, but it just strikes me as that's what I was thinking as reading this sort of email exchange, about just the level of hostility, and to the point that you're complaining about your ability to, I mean, to me, to be able to create art, because I like art. I'm a creative person. I love doing that stuff. The idea that I could have a life committed to doing that without financial responsibility is like, man, you're that's the dream. You're living the dream doing that stuff. But apparently for her, it was just all wrong. And of course, she didn't want to leave her husband because she wouldn't get enough money out of it.
Well, and that's the hostile dependency, where they come to resent the very person who is supporting them, because I think it creates cognitive dissonance. They want to be independent. They want to be seen as a mover and a shaker, a career person, but the reality is that they're not. And I've said it before, you know, if you're one of those women who could be working but isn't, and is milking your ex-husband who you hate for child support, or not child support, excuse me, spousal support, you have no integrity. You have no integrity.
Zero. You're a leech. And
at that.
Yep, and that's one thing I did notice. I did my homework and I poured through some mommy blogs. I saw a whole lot of leech culture.
Why you couldn't sleep last night?
Yeah, well, I had other reasons too, but I did stay up and immerse myself in leech culture, and it was absolutely gross.
Yeah, I need the full Silkwood after doing that. That's enough reading.
For those of you that don't know the movie Silkwood, this woman was a whistleblower, and part of the movie was that she got apparently exposed to radiation and had to have, you know, like water jets stuck up her nostrils and other openings in her body.
Or waterboarded in order to get the contamination out, basically.
Yep, and so what you said, and that's the way I felt too. I wanted to go through decontamination after reading through some of these blogs because they were honestly the most disgusting sociopathic, open sociopathic stuff I've ever read anywhere has been at Cafe Mom.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I don't want to go there, but feminists go on and on about how hateful and horrible a lot of men's rights blogs are. And there are some that I wouldn't call them men's rights blogs. I would just call them blogs where guys are indeed being misogynistic. And I've read some of them, but they don't compare. They do not compare to what goes on.
I always just figured those guys were,
MummyNet.
I just figured those guys were a little bit lost and angry, and maybe for some good reasons. Of course,
maybe they were married to some of these women on Cafe
yeah,
Mom.
and it may have been. I still don't think it helps you to turn that into seething hatred or anything like that. But at least I understand it a little better. But this wasn't really about hating their husbands. It was about bleeding them. It was about bleeding their exes. About the how-tos.
And bleeding the new spouses and engaging in war against women who they most oftentimes don't know, who happen to fall in love with their ex-husband or ex-boyfriend and are trying to build a life with him. And they transfer the hate that they have for their ex right on to the new wife. And for a lot of women who we have primarily targeted our book Say Goodbye to Crazy to, it's like walking into a buzzsaw. I mean, some of these women know what they're getting into or think they know what they're getting into, but many of them really have no idea of just how crazy is and just how nasty and toxic and intrusive and malicious she can be. I've worked with couples where in some states, and ladies, you should find out about this if you're thinking of marrying a man who has an ex-crazy. In many states, they can go after your income for her spousal support. Think about that.
Don't get married or divorced in New Jersey.
You didn't stick your penis in crazy, but you might end up having to support her or make sacrifices because somebody who is able-bodied and a grown adult refuses to remain unemployed or underemployed. And that in and of itself is galling, incredibly galling. But the denigration, I mean, many of these biological moms will also engage in parental alienation, although it perhaps would be better called step parental alienation towards their ex's new spouses and encourage the children to be hateful and disrespectful.
We'll just simplify it and call it child abuse, which is what it is.
It is. Or they treat the new wives, these new women are often treated as if they're the babysitter and personal assistant to the ex-wives. I know of cases where the women have been accused of child abuse, molestation, have had calls made to their bosses, calling them home-wrecking whores, you name it. It can get pretty bad.
One of the things, if you want to know, get an idea of the gravity of what we're talking about, I do suggest that you go to places like Cafe Mom and do some reading. Every once in a while, I get email from people saying, I don't believe you. I don't believe that this stuff is happening out there in any numbers. Go there and look. Just drag yourself through Cafe Mom for a while or other popular groups of mommy bloggers and individual blogs, and you will see some really disturbing stuff. Now, maybe if you're really super gynocentric, then it won't bother you. But if you have, I think, what's called a normal conscience or normal sense of sensibilities and values, you will see stuff that will sicken you. And you will also get an idea of just how widespread this stuff is. It's one thing the internet does, is it does give you an opportunity. Don't listen to the mainstream media interpretation of it. Go find out for yourself. Read these things. Look at them. but there is a whole lot of leeching and skullduggery and douchiness happening in these environments. Yeah, I know that's a douchey word, but
well, it's very accurate. They're scumbags. They're scumbags. They're thugs. They're ne'er-do-wells. They're parasites, and they're predators in many cases.
Yep, because once we talked about this, and Dr. T added something to the introduction to this thing, that when we're talking about mommy bloggers, we're not just talking about entitled princesses staying at home and really doing very little other than sitting around complaining on the internet about how terrible their privileged lives are. But after the divorce, they continue because, one, in most cases, they're going to have the kids. And then they will continue. And we know that despite the incentive for women to divorce, the financial incentives that are provided, in general, they do far less better than they did when they were married. So the dream is not quite as nice as the reality. And so they even get more frustrated after the divorce because now they're actually having to manage the money. They're not just expecting him to pull a rabbit out of his hat every time something is needed. And they're more bitter and more anxiety ridden and more amoral in the process many times.
You still expect their ex-husbands to pull a rabbit out of their hat or to go back out and shake the magic money tree and cough up more money beyond what they're already court ordered to pay in spousal and child support.
Well, sometimes you need that new Dooney Burke purse. I mean, you just do. So what's a girl to do? She's got to go to the guy that she didn't need and need him, which makes her hate him more and herself more, which makes her worse. It's a vision.
It is a vicious cycle. And one of the thankless tasks that the new woman, the current, the I don't like using the word current spouse, but I can't think of a better term right now. So we'll just go with that.
The Second Wives Club.
There you go. But one of the challenges that the women who are now married to the ex-husbands of crazy have to deal with is a lot of times these guys, they didn't have boundaries while they were married to crazy, and they still don't have them since their divorce. So they walk into this dynamic where crazy's still calling the shots with her ex-husband. She's got, one hand in his wallet and her foot firmly planted up his butt, and the chain around his choke collar, or the leash around his neck, whatever. And they come in and they see this and they're like, why are you giving her more money beyond what's court ordered? Why are you going over there and doing repairs for her? She treats you like shit in your divorce. So a lot of these women find that they're having to help these guys, teach these guys how to set boundaries, which then, of course, crazy's like,
oh, no, crazy does not like boundaries.
No. And if you're married to a man who doesn't have them with a crazy ex, crazy's going to be quite aware that, wow, he didn't used to tell me no before, and guess who's going to get blamed for that? And in a sense, you are to blame, because you're teaching this man how to have boundaries and stand up for himself, and crazy is not going to like that. And
I think
she will crack her ire at you as well as him and the children.
In all fairness, I want to say, and this is with, I think, a great deal of sympathy toward the struggles of many second wives, second girlfriends out of these relationships. I know that their lives can, by no fault of their own, become a living hell with the crazy ex throwing her stuff in there. But one thing that I do suggest remembering is that there's a difference between helping somebody learn to set and maintain healthy boundaries and just pressuring somebody into doing what you want them to do. And a good way to measure the results of that is that he is also, if he's learning healthy boundaries, he's also more likely to say no to you and to anything else at any moment in his life that he doesn't want to participate in. So if you are helping your husband or boyfriend develop healthy boundaries and you only see him setting them in one place, I would argue, and it's not like there's anything wrong with that, because, you know, that needs to happen. But I would also argue that he's probably not getting the whole message in there and prone to more struggles or sliding back because he's not getting the picture. The boundaries are something he maintains around himself first, then around his relationships. And so if he's learning, if you're helping him, that's good. But one of the ways you measure that is by whether or not he sets limits with you.
Exactly. And conversely, which we discuss in our book, Say Goodbye to Crazy, what a lot of these women find is that their husbands can set boundaries with them well enough, but still won't set them with crazy.
And that has to be one frustrating situation. And I think there's a reason for that too. One, he's more scared of crazy than he is of you. He has years of experiencing her retribution. He knows what she can potentially have in her hands with the courts. She has learned probably to manipulate every issue he's ever had of his family of origin. She's a master at this. And so I would consider it sort of even though it's not helpful, it is a compliment that he feels safer saying no to you than he does to her. But because that's what he's really saying, is that I feel like I can say no here and I don't feel like I can over there. And your challenge there is to get the message to him, I'm saying no to that. It's got to be everywhere, and especially with where the pain is coming. Because if he's saying no to you over you're wanting him to do what a partner in a relationship is supposed to do, which is to have boundaries around the home, around the relationship, around the kids, all this stuff, something that he stands up for. And no, guys, I'm not saying man up. I'm saying every man and woman in a relationship shouldn't be there if they're not willing to defend that relationship. So if he's doing that, you're doing great. And if he's not, you really need to sit down and do this thoughtfully. And of course, shameless picture. I think there's a really good set of instructions in our book that will help you with that. It's not an easy job, but it is absolutely learnable. You can measure your progress. It's not like guessing, am I making progress or not? You know whether or not you're setting limits. It's very, very clear. If you have a pledge to stay conscious of, you know if you're allowing yourself to be treated in ways that you shouldn't. So that holds your feet to the fire. But that's my 2 cents on that, Dr. T. I really agree with you.
And you'll know you're making progress and your boundaries are working if crazy gets angrier and angrier. Hopefully that will eventually extinguish itself, but initially she will push back and she will be angrier and nastier. That doesn't mean it's not working, it means it is working. So stick with it.
Well, the really twisted part of me thinks that's the fun part of saying goodbye to crazy. That is the fun part, is you get to watch them bounce off the walls like a pinball, going in 19 different directions, not knowing where to head. It's actually quite amusing. It can be sort of treacherous because she does have the state on her side and a few other things, but it is, I think, somewhat
and minor children in some cases, which you don't want to expose the kids to.
No, you don't.
They're exposed to that anyway if they're living with her, because crazy is crazy.
Yeah, let's see. So, mommy bloggers from hell, basically sort of, again, that portion of the population, we're talking about a group of women who have it a little bit too good in life, who could use a job cleaning the inside of a sewer, who could use a job working on the back of a garbage truck or climbing poles or on a road crew, but instead they're in an air-conditioned place on a $3,000 laptop complaining about what a struggle their lives are. God.
Well, and it's not, I don't know if you came across any of these posts, but it's not just all privileged middle-class women. There are also populations on Cafe Mom who are not privileged who are on welfare and assistance programs, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's a safety net. Yes, it can be abused, but sometimes it's needed for a person to get back on their feet. But these are women who you can just tell that they either had very little education or did not come out of a very good educational system, and it's really quite sad. And I'm not going to get into all of those social issues, but you'll see that too. And they're having kids and they can't afford it, and sometimes they don't know who the father is, and it's really sad.
I don't think it's too political. The worst thing that I think we do as a society is that we fail to educate people. I mean, I think you could say, call it entitlement spending if you want to. I know the libertarian in me screams out to say, no, 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 you can't give it away. Well, guess what? There is also, I think, a pragmatism that overrides politics, believe it or not. And one of the things is that if we did educate people, if we made that a priority, to get people through school, not just by passing them, but by actually having teachers that will teach and who are committed to teaching and insisting that their students learn, we could really, really prevent a lot of this. Because I did see that, Dr. T, and some of it is tragic.
Yeah, and I would add to that as well, because I agree with you 100%, that we also start looking at domestic violence not as a gender issue, but as a family systems issue that is taught and modeled and passed down from generation to generation, because you see that in those kinds of posts too.
Which reminds me, I think, how much time we in here?
You've got about 10 more minutes left. Okay.
Well, I think we've given mommy bloggers about all they're worth. For the most part. And I'm going to reiterate again, there are women out there in the mamasphere that are talking about how best to raise children, about children's nutrition, their psychological needs. I did run across this. There's some good stuff out there, and some very invested mothers in creating the best.
Some of my best references for Shrink for Men come from reading websites about how to deal with troubled children.
Well, yes. Hey, I mean, we won't.
Because that same information applies to children in adult bodies as well.
You can connect the dots on your own. Take that for what it means. Yeah, I think we've given that part of the mommy blogger population about all the attention that they deserve, and it's probably a good bit more than they should have. But it's nice to get these things on the record. It's nice to be able to treat people that if you just want to go read some real crazy, go to a mommy blog, and you'll have a whole, and you'll see cat fights and all kinds of, people say that if women ran the world, there'd be no war. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I went to an all-girl high school. That is such crap. That is such crap. Oh my God. But I do want to, in all seriousness, I want to give a message to, you might be, to new stepmoms out there. If you go onto these websites and you stumble into one of these forums where biological moms are telling you that you're inferior and you need to mind your place, and they're on the attack and are shaming you or trying to make you feel bad or guilty, find another forum. That's just, it's not true. These women are bitter and angry and malicious, and they want to harm you. They don't want to help you. Unless you enjoy trolling and flame wars, don't find somewhere that's helpful with a community of stepmoms, and who are also oftentimes biological moms. It should stop ringing now. But there are online communities that offer really good advice, great support, particularly around having to deal with a crazy ex. So if you stumble into one that is toxic and horrible, don't buy into it. Don't start beating up on yourself. Don't start kissing the biological mom's ass. Go find another support community. They're out there.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. And with that, I guess we'll wrap it up, Dr. T. My little pitch at the end here, one, of course, is always, a copy of Say Goodbye to Crazy will keep crazy away. If you read it and follow it. Also want to point out, in keeping with what Dr. T said about domestic violence being a multi-generational issue of family dysfunction rooted in problems like lack of education, alcoholism, drug addiction, poverty, all of these things play into roles. That we have this gendered model when it's not looking at the causes, the actual causes of domestic violence. I am going to be speaking at Ryerson University coming up in a little over a week. I'll be speaking on the 5th and on the 6th of June. This is a particularly important presentation for me because Ryerson is the university in Toronto which preemptively banned any men's issues groups from being on their university. They passed a resolution that misandry did not exist. That the young woman and her two friends who wanted to form a men's issues group there after witnessing a violent protest by feminists at the University of Toronto were actually misogynistic, woman haters. This was like 19-year-old.
Professor Adele, what's her name, teaches?
No, she's at Queen's University. This is Ryerson.
Okay.
But Ryerson still denies the existence of men's issues, and I will be speaking there along with a whole lineup of other speakers: Paul Nathanson, Dr. Tanvir Ahmed, who was more or less bullied out of the White Ribbon campaign because he made the completely erroneous claim that men could be victims too. They weren't having any of that, and a lot of other speakers. But I will be talking about domestic violence as a multi-generational issue. I'll be talking about the actual versus the cultural narrative, but the actual causes of domestic violence, and about the academic corruption and fraud that has gone into creating a multi-billion-dollar industry off of selling a false model like the Duluth model to people, which is just absolute nonsense. So if you can find information about this. Is the second annual Domestic Violence Symposium for Toronto that is hosted by the Maltese Charitable Trust. You can look on A Voice for Men and you'll find information on that now, or you can write me at paul@avoiceformen.com. That's coming up at on June the 5th and 6th in Toronto. So we'd like to see you out there if you'd like to come. I understand that there's some people that are not much happy about it, but that's the way we roll.
Are feminists ever happy? Oh, only when they bathe in male tears. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. But with that, I want to thank everybody for showing up. Let you guys know we are working on it very soon. I mean, the Say Goodbye to Crazy will be available in a paperback. Going to know that it's going to be a little bit more expensive than the e-version. The cost of printing, of course, these days being somewhat astronomical. But
it's a big old chunk of it as well. So in order for us to recoup our costs, because we are funding this ourselves, it's going to be a bit pricier than a paperback should, but certainly, probably right around the $20 range, between 20 and 20. We got to figure out the numbers, but we want to keep it at a price that is not painful, especially since it's soft cover, not hard cover. But
have to recoup a little bit of the almost 3 years of work that went into it.
There is that, but also the cost of the printing and paying for the formatting and the artwork and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, just so be it known that the $20 or so or whatever it is that you end up spending on the book, it's not like either one of us are going to see anywhere near the majority of that. It's like little bitty.
It won't be per book. That won't even get us a small coffee at Starbucks.
I know she struggled. She didn't want to say Starbucks. I know her very well. She did not.
I'm waiting for product placement. Darn it.
She's trying to avoid the S word. Okay, well, I think we're wrapped up here. Again, thank everybody for coming. Hope you've enjoyed this. And we'll see you next time on Say Goodbye to Crazy. Bye.